Welcome to this week's Powerback episode. Today we're talking about getting inspired when you're uninspired. You know that moment when you're like, I've got stuff to do, I'm ready to do something, I know it's all right there in front of me, but I don't have the mojo to get it done. Your brain is telling you one thing, but your body is telling you something else. How do you ignite the inspiration, the motivation, the want to actually take action? I can tell you that while this does feel like a pain in the ass, there is a solution. Before we get into that, I want to remind you that if you are enjoying the Powerback sessions and getting value out of simplifying your life, evolving your business, learning how to rediscover yourself, and you could use just a little bit more guidance, I offer one-on-one coaching in a bunch of different ways. So if you go to LauraAura.com and click on the Work With Me tab, you can learn about the different ways that I can support you as you are growing and expanding and realigning your life and your business. And if you're not sure where to start, just book a discovery call. It's free, it's 30 minutes, you and me, let's talk about what's going on. And I'm always happy to give you some advice and guidance on your very next step to take. So today we're talking about getting inspired when you're feeling uninspired. You're thinking, okay, Laura, how do you create a fire when there isn't a spark to even work with? I first want to humanize that this is normal. This is a very normal thing that many people experience on a regular basis. And there can be a lot of different reasons why you're uninspired. And I think that's one of the very first places to start is just to take an emotional and energetic inventory. How are you feeling in general and what's going on in your life and business? There's quite a few common denominators that can be contributing to why you're feeling uninspired. First and foremost is feeling burnt out and overworked. My friend, if you have been chugging along for a long ass period, if you've not taken a break, if you're grinding and working yourself and running all hours of the day and night and just forcing and pushing and climbing, you're gonna feel uninspired. When you're overwhelmed, you're tired. And when you're tired, it's not exactly the time frame where you get the most brilliant aha moments. Another reason could be because you're feeling disconnected, meaning you're out of alignment with yourself. Maybe you've been in the trenches for too long or lost sight of the bigger picture and the why, and you're just kind of trudging along. When you're misaligned, you're not looking at the big picture why, at the reason that you're doing this in the first place, for the bigger calling, the enthusiasm, the joy that this actually brings you. Disconnection is keeping your head down, which is probably causing you to be uninspired. Another reason, overcommitting. Does that sound familiar? Look, overcommitment is a huge issue, especially for women, especially for working women, especially for working women mothers. Okay. We could add on all of these different roles and responsibilities in your life to say, hey, you're probably doing too much shit and we might need to pull back some. Look, if you have no time to do the things that you actually want to do, and instead you're filling your time and your schedule with a bunch of shit that drains your energy, yeah, you're not going to really be super inspired. And lastly, overthinking. Look, your brain loves to have conversations with you. It wants to tell you all the reasons things are going to go to hell in a handbasket. It wants to tell you why all these things aren't going to work out, or there's a lack of this and not enough time for that, and what if and hows. When you're overthinking the shiznit out of everything, it's really hard for your brain to think about new, great, exciting ideas because it's kind of focused on the doom and gloom. So this is stuff that's happening on a regular basis, right? These are human experiences, human thoughts, feelings, and emotions that happen. You can't always change and adjust and control those things, but what you can control is yourself. So how do you get inspired when all this shit's going on? You're feeling uninspired, you're feeling disconnected, you're overthinking, you're overcommitted, and you're fucking burnt out. Well, my friend, first, foremost, and always, you must start to build awareness around how you're feeling. Because honestly, what happens a lot of times is you're getting uninspired and then you get in this hamster wheel of doing and fixing and figuring out. And you don't even recognize that that is simply inspiration just gone out the window. You're trying to fix things, you're trying to solve things, and sometimes you're just trying to get through the day. When you can build awareness around how you're actually feeling and what's happening in the moment, then you get to start to make a different decision. So the first thing that you can do is ask yourself, what does my body, mind, and soul need right now? A lot of times the lack of inspiration can look like numbing out, staring, scrolling endlessly, not wanting to do things, like feeling stuck and dense. It's like, I know I need to do this. At one point, I wanted to do this, and now I'm just going to kind of stare at it. And there isn't a part of me that wants to get in and do it. When you can recognize when you're doing those things, like what is that? What does that look for like for you? For me, it looks like mindlessly scrolling. Like I like a good downtime at the end of the day or when I'm finishing something to scroll through TikTok or Instagram or just kind of get caught up for the day. Like that's very different. That's like kind of coming down off of things. And honestly, it's enjoyable sometimes. But when I'm in the middle of a workday or I start procrastinating on something, or I have resistance. Gosh, we have so many episodes on resistance and what that really means. The thing you want the most is behind the thing that you resist the most. Just going to slide that back across the table. When I want to do something, but like I just cannot get the like oomph to start doing it, I start to mindlessly scroll. And before I know it, it's been a half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. Hell, honestly, literally earlier today, 90 minutes scrolling on TikTok. I couldn't find the inspiration to create this episode. Oh, the fucking irony in that. When you recognize that, you can say, okay, does my body, mind, or soul need something right now? A lot of times that is your body's way of saying, hey, I need to get up and move. I need some joy. I need some happiness. I need something in my life. And honestly, sometimes it's your body's way of saying, I need you to recognize that I need some rest right now because I need to refuel. So it's important to know that if you're not feeling inspired, it's not always about pushing through it. Sometimes it's about honoring how you're actually feeling and allowing yourself to rest and do the thing that your body actually needs. If you've evaluated that and you're like, okay, I've rested and I've eaten today and I got a little bit of sunshine and like I did all the things, but I'm still just kind of blankly staring at the thing that I need to do, then the next thing you can do is start to take some action because action creates momentum. Momentum creates inspiration. Look, I think that there's this myth that somehow inspiration is just going to like swoop down out of the heavens and like be like, here is your grand fucking idea. And sometimes that does happen, right? When you are in alignment with yourself and you have parted the ways and are working towards and are creating the thing that is most aligned with your soul, that can happen. When you're out of alignment, though, this lack of inspiration, this trudging through, this like forcing yourself to do shit shows up more often than not. So sometimes what you need to do is change your atmosphere. Get up, work at a different desk, go in a different part of your house, go to a co-working space. Allow yourself to take a break for a second. Get up and go get some air. Get a fresh cup of coffee. Make your favorite tea. Use that fancy honey that you only open like 3 times a year. I don't know what it is. Like, do something about changing your atmosphere. Think of this like your 5 senses. Putting on music that elevates your mood or like really like kind of gets you going. Putting on clothing that feels really amazing on your body. Like depending on what type of activity that you need to do, dress that part, allow yourself to really physically feel into that. Smells can go a long way. Your senses are so strong. So diffusing some essential oils or putting on your favorite perfume or opening the windows for some fresh air, like really like creating this nurturing, beautiful atmosphere can really get your body and mind saying, hey, I'm feeling good now. And now I'm ready to do the next thing. And please don't ever underestimate the power of getting outside. The sunshine, your feet in the grass, like sitting on your porch for a minute, going for a drive with the windows down, like whatever it is, getting a little bit of outside in and on your body does such wonders for your mind, your body, and your inspiration. So changing your atmosphere and or creating an inspiring atmosphere can really make a world of a difference. And last but not least, it's all about taking small actions because what we want to do is have it all figured out right now, right? You want to know it all. You want it to be done. You're thinking about the bigness of whatever it is that you're doing. You're trying to figure out all the hows of how things are going to work. And so like your brain and your body are like super hyper fixated on how to figure out this big thing. And that can be really discouraging sometimes, because when you don't know all the answers, you're like, well, I don't know all the answers, so I don't know where to start, therefore I'm just not going to. And then you pause and you freeze and you're scrolling again. One of the very best things that you can do is to allow yourself to take one tiny action. So I'll tell you what I did today. I told you that I froze, which is super ironic because I'm talking about getting inspired and I wasn't inspired. So sometimes I think the universe is like, okay, I need to give you some new material to work with. Here you go, figure it out. So when I caught myself, okay, I built awareness. Laura, you're scrolling. I recognize that that's one of my habits. When I'm too overwhelmed, I'm uninspired, and I don't know where to start, I just automatically go to that. And so I said, okay, Laura, you're scrolling again. Let's pause. So I put down the phone and I sat for a second and I said, what is one thing that I can do to move forward to recording this episode? I can plug in my headphones. Okay, let me get them out. So I got out my headphones and I plugged them in. And I said, okay, that wasn't so bad. I got out the headphones, I plugged them in. What's one more thing that I can do? I can get my notebook and my notes ready. So I got out my notebook. I listened back to the previous outro so that I got some notes about what I was talking about this time. And I started to just jot down some things that started to come to me. And wouldn't you know that inspiration came swooping right back in. Look, it's not that it goes away or it's not accessible to you. It's just sometimes it needs a break and sometimes it needs to be called back in. And by taking action, you create momentum. And when your body is like this forward moving train. When you start moving, like a train doesn't just go from 0 to 100, right? We don't have Tesla trains yet. I'm sure at some point we will, but we don't yet. So your brain is not just going to be like when you're feeling uninspired and out of alignment, but you can start to get some momentum and those wheels can start to turn and you can start to get some speed and you start going, and before you know it, you're going, you're moving. Your inspiration is back because you have reconnected with yourself. By starting to write down some of my ideas, that told my brain was like, hey, it's time to do this now. We're ready. And it just started pouring out. And before I know it, here I am recording this episode with you when I didn't feel inspired an hour ago. And here we are, almost finished. I want to remind you that your connection to divine power, divine energy, and explosive inspiration never runs out. If anything, it's like a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. It's a resource that is always available to you. I want to remind you that it's insanely important to listen to and honor your body, because it's not always about plowing through and pushing through and making things happen and forcing and hustling. Honestly, that's what causes a lot of creativity, just like, nope, not today, because we're done. You're forcing me, and I don't really like that. Have you ever tried to get a toddler into a car seat when they're super pissed off at you? Yeah, that's what it's like when you're trying to force your inspiration to happen, when your body's like, no, I told you, I kind of need a hot second. What does the toddler need instead? It needs a snack, probably. They may need a drink. They need a change of clothing. They need a second to talk it out. And before you know it, they're listening to their favorite song on their tablet and they're ready to go wherever you're going. That's how your inspiration works as well. When you can pause and honor what it needs instead of trying to force it into a situation that it's not ready to take on, it's going to work with you instead of against you. And sometimes it requires a little bit of dancing, a little bit of talking, a little bit of movement, getting one step closer, taking one tiny action to be like, hey, this isn't so bad. Sorry, I had to go for a second, but I'm back and I'm ready to do this thing. Your inspiration is everywhere. It's in the music that you listen to. It's in the podcasts that you're listening to, the audiobooks that you're listening to, the YouTube videos that you're watching, who you're watching on TikTok and Instagram, the movies that you're watching, the trees, my friend, the trees and the sky and the beautiful world that we live in. Inspiration is forever around you. Art is everywhere. Ideas are everywhere. And when you start to reconnect with yourself, to tap back into who you are, what you do, what you want to do, and how you want to do it, your ideas and your inspiration start to flow on a regular basis. And when you're tired, you rest. And when you rest, your body refuels. And when your body refuels, then it knows that it's time to go again. So from an hour ago, feeling like I am a turd face and my podcast sucks and nobody wants to listen, and so therefore, why should I create it, to creating a very deep, profound, very aligned, inspirational podcast episode from you. I can tell you that it is possible. It is possible when you listen to yourself, you honor yourself, and you allow yourself. If this episode's got you pumped up and you're like, you know what, I am ready to have some accountability, I'm ready to have somebody walk this path with me, it would be my insane honor to become your coach. You can go to LauraAura.com and view the work with me section. And if you're not sure where to start or you just want to chat, go to LauraAura.com and book a discovery call today. Next week on the Gutsy Podcast, episode 149, if you are thinking about becoming a coach or you're in the early stages of being a coach, next week's episode is about building your coaching business. I'd love to hear from you. Please come over to TikTok and Instagram. I am at that LauraAura. Tell me what you loved or what you took away from today's episode. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.